So hello and welcome to I'm the Best Mom. I trust you all are keeping well and staying safe. I'm the Best Mom is committed to make your motherhood a joyful experience. We bring you collective knowledge and right information from specialized doctors and experts. Today, we are on the 35th episode of Cover Page Cover Story. We are going to have discussion on is your child not interested in study? Now, before getting into the session, it's a pleasure and I'm extremely happy to have Dr. Archana Kadam with us today. Dr. Archana is a MD DNB Pediatrics from BJ Medical College and KM Hospital, Pune, practicing developmental and behavioral pediatrics in Pune since 2004. As consultant developmental pediatrician at KEM Hospital and Jahangir Hospital, Pune, in conversation with Dr. Anuj Rastogi. Dr. Anuj Rastogi, sir, we all know he's a senior neonatal pediatrician, head of the department, a social influencer, co-founder of I'm the Best Mom, and the curator of Jajitara. Before we get into the session for the day, let's share this quote with you. So here it's from William Wilberforce, who is a British politician, philanthropist, and a leader of the movement to abolish the slave trade. Now, when we are going forward, it's very important to understand how you may choose to look the other way, but you can never say again that you did not know. More in detail about our journey, being a parent, and today's time, we are going through a very difficult time as a community. So today's session is more going to be an interaction of both the experts, but I would definitely request you all, if you have any specific question, please post it on the Q&A section. We will take it up at the end of the discussion. Over to you, Dr. Anuj, sir.
Thank you, Deepman ji. Thank you very much. 2007 में एक फिल्म आई थी जो आमिर खान ने डायरेक्ट की थी और आमिर खान उसमें स्टार भी थे, तारे जमी पे, और वो बहुत ही अच्छी पिक्चर थी. उन्होंने बहुत थॉटफुल तरीके से बनाई थी. उसमें ईशान एक कैरेक्टर होता है जो 8 साल का है. उसका फादर बहुत एकम्प्लिश्ड आदमी है और उसका बड़ा भाई एग्जेम्पलरी है, बहुत अच्छा खेलने में भी है, पढ़ने में भी बहुत अच्छा. पेरेंट्स उस बच्चे को समझते रहते हैं ये लेजी है, स्टूपिड है, इसका पढ़ने में दिमाग नहीं लगता, और उसको तरह तरह से पनिश करा जाता है. और उसकी जो टीचर्स हैं वो भी उसके बारे में अच्छा नहीं सोचते, उसको पनिश करते हैं. वो पेरेंट्स एक बड़ा जनरल नोशन होता है हमारी सुनता नहीं है और वो उसे एक हॉस्टल में, एक बोर्डिंग में भेज देते हैं. बोर्डिंग में उसका और भी ज्यादा बुरा हाल होता है, वहाँ के टीचर और बुरी तरह उसको पनिश करते हैं। तब वहाँ एक टीचर, उसे आर्ट टीचर मिलता है जो 5 मिनट्स में उसके बारे में समझ जाता है। Within 5 minutes, he understood about him and he talked to him, and that changed the life of that child. He recognized this child is having dyslexia. तो आप सभी लोगों ने वो पिक्चर देखी होगी, and you all must have seen that picture, and that is a very very common disorder. It is more common than autism and ADHD. स्पेशली लॉकडाउन के बाद लोगों को ऑटिज्म और एडीएचडी के बारे में काफी पता चल गया, एंड इट लुक्स लाइक ऑटिज्म सरफेस आउट हो गया लॉकडाउन के बाद, क्योंकि बच्चे मोबाइल में लगे रहे और उनका कम्युनिकेशन स्किल खत्म हो गया। इनफैक्ट न्यूरोडाइवर्सिटी, what is neurodiversity? Neurodiversity means all brains are different. Few of them could be autistic, कुछ को ADHD हो सकता है, कुछ को डिसलेक्सिया हो सकता है। One size does not fit in all brains. So हर एक का जो ब्रेन है, हर आदमी का एक डिफरेंट तरीके से वायर्ड हुआ है, और जो थोड़े डिफरेंट ब्रेन है उनकी डीलिंग भी डिफरेंट है। इस बात को आप ऐसे समझ सकते हैं, जब बच्चे के पेरेंट्स हमारे पास आते हैं, वो बोलते हैं इसको निमोनिया हो गया, and then we see it is just a common cold. We ask them to continue with the common medicine, paracetamol, steam, or some decongestant, and then we reassure them it is not pneumonia. But once it is pneumonia, then you have to take treatment in form of pneumonia. You should give antibiotics, or you decide how long it should be continued. Similarly, this analogy fit for the dyslexia also. When a child is not doing well in the studies, and most of the time it is not the child at fault, it is the school at fault, which is not able to recognize the main problem, root cause of the problem, why child is not interested in the studies, why he is not doing dictation, why he is not listening, or why he is causing naughtiness or depressed, because they miss dyslexia, and quite a few of them are suffering from dyslexia. The true incidence of dyslexia is around 15 to 20% in children. So it is not uncommon to have dyslexia in general population, but it is because autism and ADHD everybody understand. और ADHD वाला बच्चा बहुत शैतान होगा, सामान तोड़ेगा। ऑटिस्टिक बच्चा कम्युनिकेशन में, उसका जो कम्युनिकेशन स्किल है वो डिफरेंट होगा, ही विल नॉट कम्युनिकेट टू यू, and you can judge them easily. One can judge them, there is something is not good, or something is not as it should be with the normal child. But dyslexia you cannot recognize from outside. It is not so easy to diagnose dyslexia. It is only the teachers, those who are teaching children in the school, they first of all they recognize this child may be having dyslexia. और जैसा कि सब बीमारियों में जितना जल्दी आप उन्हें पहचान लें, जितना जल्दी उसके लिए आप ट्रीटमेंट जो भी है, चाहे वो दवाई है, चाहे वो ट्रेनिंग है, जितना जल्दी शुरू करते हैं उतना जल्दी आपको फायदा होने लगता है, और उतना जल्दी आप एक सही ट्रैक पे आ जाते हैं। With this preface, I would like to ask Dr. Archana. I welcome you, Dr. Archana, on this platform.
Good evening, sir. Thank you
Good
very
evening,
much
ma'am.
for
Good
having
evening. Yeah. So, मैम थोड़ा आप हमारी जो ऑडियंस है उनको बताएंगी, आप डिसलेक्सिया के बच्चे किंडरगार्टन में कैसे प्रेजेंट करते, कब उन पेरेंट्स को सस्पिशन होना चाहिए कि ये डिसलेक्सिया हो सकता है, या इसके लिए डेवलपमेंटल पीडियाट्रिशियन से मिलने की जरूरत है?
Right. Now, dyslexia is a neurodevelopmental condition of biological origin in which the child has difficulty in academic work despite having normal intelligence. Generally, dyslexia manifests in the school age. So nowadays, with our children going to school earlier, our children are say doing academic work in LKG or upper KG. Generally, it is around 6 years that symptoms of dyslexia may manifest. जब बच्चा छोटा रहता है in the kindergarten, say in the earlier schools, classes LKG or upper KG, the child could have, sometimes children could have history of speech delay. They may have started speaking late. They might have expressive language delays. Sometimes children could have attention issues which are comorbid. मतलब attention difficulties बच्चे को हो सकते हैं. The child may not sit in class, may have difficulty focusing on tasks. जब बच्चे का academic चालू होता है, that time some things that might come into notice is difficulty in retrieval of letters. मतलब हमने अगर B लिखा है तो the child to retrieve it as B or the sound as B, ये जो हम बोलते हैं ग्राफीम फोनीम का कोऑर्डिनेशन, इसमें कभी कभी चिल्ड्रन माइट हैव डिफिकल्टीज. they might have difficulty in blending the word together. समझो BAT है तो bat ये blend करके word पढ़ना, ये बाकी के बच्चों के हिसाब से the child might find it difficult. Despite being intellectually good, despite orally being good, when it comes to reading, the child might have difficulties. Other difficulties would be letter reversals. B becomes D, M becomes W, P becomes 9. These may be there. Sometimes children might have difficulty in handedness, using one hand. ये जो बच्चे कहते हैं right hand use, generally this comes by 4. Sometimes in children with dyslexia, ये handedness जो होता है, that might happen a little later. Other difficulties that they could have, they might be clumsy with their hand skills. They might have expressive language difficulties. So around 4 or 5, these are little pointers that we could have that the child might have difficulties. However, we don't assess it as a learning difficulty or dyslexia before 6 years. The difficulty should persist for at least 6 months, and we should rule out intellectual disability, vision, hearing difficulties, or other organic causes before we start looking at dyslexia as a probable cause for the child not doing well.
So how to differentiate? Is it because of behavioral, functional, or any other reason?
Right. Now, most of the times when parents come to us, they come saying that my child is not doing well in school. Now, there can be many reasons why the child is not doing well. One, of course, is dyslexia. Second, the child could have a cognitive difficulty, meaning if the child's overall skills are behind, obviously the child's reading might also be behind. The child could have ADHD. We could also look at simple causes. Look for the child's vision, look for the child's hearing. Has the child missed out on school? Sometimes children have medical problems, thyroid hai, asthma hai, the child has missed out on school. So conventional instruction agar nahi hua hai, even then the child might not be performing well. Sometimes children have a lot of anxiety about school. If there is a too rigorous structure of the school, too much of writing, the child might get anxiety related to it, and that could cause the child to not perform well. Sometimes the child could have a motor difficulty. So when the child is brought into us for not doing well, what we do is we first take a detailed developmental history and we do a detailed developmental and behavioral evaluation with the child. We assess the child's development, assess the child's vision, hearing, assess the child's neurology, get an idea of how this child is performing developmentally for his age level, get an idea of how the child's attention is it interfering with the child's learning. We will also have a look at the child's school work, his notebooks. They are a big guide to tell us how the child is doing. We also get some input from the teacher. We sent out a questionnaire to the teacher to find out how this child is performing in school. Once we get our all our thoughts into place, that is when we would recommend certain tests. Somehow we are thinking that there could be a cognitive issue. We would refer the child for detailed testing, an IQ testing, an assessment of academic achievements, or cognitive processing testing helps us differentiate intellectual disability from dyslexia. Other causes, we would check for vision, hearing. If needed, we would do a neurological evaluation to rule out motor disorders, and a general behavior, how the child is performing in front of us, could help us differentiate from a developmental learning difficulty or a behavioral issue.
Correct, ma'am. There are two more things I would like to add. One is tonsillitis, adenoids. अगर बच्चे के adenoids बढ़े हुए हैं तो उसको रात में sleep difficulty हो सकती है, जिसकी वजह से उसका behavior क्लास में ठीक ना रहे. और दूसरा जो मोस्ट कॉमन है, अब लॉकडाउन में बहुत टीवी देखा गया और सोने की सोने का टाइम और जागने का टाइम भी बच्चों का डिस्टर्ब हो गया. अगर उनको रात को नींद डिस्टर्ब है तो वो अगले दिन उनका स्कूल के अंदर मन नहीं लगेगा और कॉग्निटिवली दे विल नॉट डू वेल. This is also very common thing, and this sleep architecture can be improved by some medicine also, with some counseling also, and this is also very important. तो जब कोई भी बच्चा हमारे पास आता है तो हम उसे मल्टीपल एंगल से देखते हैं कि इसकी एक्चुअल प्रॉब्लम क्या है. बट जो उन बच्चों को डांटना, पनिश करना पढ़ाई के ऊपर बिना समझे, दिस इज नॉट गुड. इसमें तो पेरेंट्स की फेलियर है या टीचर की फेलियर है उसके रूट कॉज पे, बिकॉज अभी भी ट्रेंड शुरू नहीं हुआ है वेल बीबी चेकअप का या इस बात के लिए डॉक्टर के पास जाने का. सिर्फ ये बहुत अच्छी मूवी आई थी तारे जमीन पे, मगर मुझे नहीं लगता इससे कुछ फर्क पड़ा. सबको आमिर खान पसंद आए और वो मूवी पसंद आई और बात खत्म हो गई. हमने किसी कुछ लर्न नहीं करा.
Right. Sir, over the years, awareness about learning disability has definitely improved. Meaning, I've been practicing for the last 17 years. तो पहले जो था awareness, उससे it is better. Now that there are counselors in school, they are able to pick up difficulties very early, so that the child comes in early and we can start intervention early. Still a lot needs to be done, but पहले से तो it's getting better.
No, that's right. But autism has taken the front seat. Everybody is talking about the autism because they are bigger player. They have jumped because of the social reason for autism. Nobody is talking about the other learning disabilities. So as a pediatrician and as a developmental pediatrician, you are aware of all this. But हमारा मेन इस प्रोग्राम को करने का रीजन ही है कि हम डिफरेंट एस्पेक्ट पे जो बच्चों की लाइफ से रिलेटेड है उस पे लोगों को सेंसिटाइज करते हैं, जिससे एटलीस्ट जो हो चुका आने वाले बच्चों के साथ अगर किसी के साथ कोई प्रॉब्लम है तो वो टाइमिंगली क्योर हो जाए, टाइमिंगली उस पर कोई एक्शन ले लिया जाए.
Right.
So what are the method when we diagnose it as dyslexia? So what are the method and how to correct it? Is there some medicine for it?
Right. Now, in dyslexia, as we said, child is intellectually good. Difficulties जो है, those are academic difficulties. So the child might have difficulty in reading, which is dyslexia. The child might have difficulty in written expression, which is dysgraphia, or the child might have difficulty in mathematics, which is dyscalculia. Every child is different. The overarching term that we use is a specific learning disability. This we diagnose by an IQ test, and we do an academic achievement test where we see how this child is doing academically compared to his IQ. Previously, we would say that there was a 2-year discrepancy. If the child is in 3rd standard, but reading is at 1st grade, that's how we would say. But now what we say is, compared to the child's academic level, if the child is not performing well despite normal IQ, we call it as dyslexia. Now, there is no medicine as such to cure dyslexia. If the child has an associated concentration difficulty or ADHD, there is medication to work on attention. In case of dyslexia, the first thing that needs to be done is counseling for the parents, for the entire family, because as Sir, you rightly said, every child is different. Every child has strengths and weaknesses. If your child is not doing well in school, he is not doing it purposely. He has a difficulty in doing the reading, which is why he finds it hard, and that's why he tends to evade it. Once the parents understand that their child's intellectual ability is good, these are few areas which we want to work on, where there is therapy available. If the parent is sensitized early and we start work early, the child does well. Now, therapies that are available, the first one that is available is remedial therapy, which is done with a special educator. This basically works on teaching the child strategies for good reading. I mean, in dyslexia, there are certain difficulties, which we said, the difficulty in reading the word and saying the word. So to work on this, there are strategies available. First that they do is phoneme awareness. The child is taught, samjho bat hai. How many sounds are there? There is b, at, there are 3 sounds. The other thing that is taught to the child is to match the phonemes. The child is taught blending. The child is taught rhyming words. That's how we make the child aware through play techniques about the word. Later comes phonological instructions, where we teach the child strategies to read. Jaise agar word hai bottle, we teach the child to break the word, cover the last 3, and b is bought, and TTLE is l. So bottle. Teach the child to blend the word. That is how we increase the awareness of the word. Then we teach the child to put the words together and read the sentence. In dyslexia, the method of reading is different. For neurotypical children, you don't need to teach them the reading technique. The child learns it as incidental. But here, the approach actively is to help the child to read. See, if the child doesn't follow our conventional instruction, if a child can't learn the way we teach, we should teach the way the child learns. And that is the technique that we use here. Initially, the focus is on learning to read. As the child goes in an older class, the child reads to learn. Read karke, I want to learn to comprehend the matter and get the gist. So that these are the strategies for remedial. Remedial can be done either in-house in school, in few schools. Otherwise, there are special educators who take sessions for children, maybe twice a week or thrice a week, 45-minute session. Sometimes phonetical awareness can be done in a group where children sit together and say words, and that helps them to learn better. In addition, sometimes children might have difficulty in written expression. If they have a motor coordination issue, in such cases, occupational therapy may also help the children.
And what is this Orton Gillingham technique or therapy?
So there are different techniques available for teaching reading strategies. These are all remedial techniques available. There are many such techniques. The whole purpose is to create awareness about the word, teach the child to read, and later use reading to learn for the child. So there is no one particular method. The special educator uses an amalgamation of methods and figures out which one works best for the child.
मैं इसे और सिंप्लीफाई करके बताऊंगा. जैसे 1 + 1 2, बट जो डिस्लेक्सिक बच्चा होगा वो उसे 11 भी इंटरप्रेट कर सकता है. तो आपको 1 + 1 कहने के लिए उसको 2 पेन दिखा के बताना पड़ेगा. 1 is 1 pen, 1 is pen, and they become 2. So that is how they learn. If you ask them to speak flute, spelling is FLUT. There are 5 words, but when you speak, the phonemes will be of the four syllables only. Flute. So ये एक हम लोग तो आपस में समझ जाते हैं, एंड बट जो डिस्लेक्सिक ब्रेन है उसकी वायरिंग डिफरेंटली हुई है. वो थोड़ा डिफरेंट तरीके से समझते हैं, और वो जितनी उसमें टेक्नोलॉजी है और जितना जो हमारा डेवलपमेंट है साइंस का, वो उनको उनकी वायरिंग के हिसाब से समझा के उन्हें परफेक्ट बनाने का है. और ऐसे तमाम एग्जाम्पल हैं वर्ल्ड के अंदर. स्टीफन स्पीलबर्ग जो बहुत फेमस डायरेक्टर हैं, ही इज ए फेमस डिस्लेक्सिक. Even there are many dyslexics, those who are very, very famous. Fitzgerald and Job. There are many, many dyslexic people. Even Newton was also supposed to be dyslexic. Ma'am, can a special and appropriate teaching method that can help child cope up the career successfully? Will they be?
So the earlier we pick up the difficulty, the better the child does. our aim is generally children are picked up say by 5.5. So what we do is create better awareness. The testing generally we do around 6.5, and that is when we start remediation. Now, depending on the severity of the learning difficulty, that's how the child does. So if the difficulty is mild, the child can compensate using the remedial strategies and availing the accommodations that the child gets in school. Moderate hai, so the child may have difficulty completing the task, but will definitely benefit with the remediation. Sometimes if the learning difficulty is severe, we do have our remediation and our accommodations too, but the child's academic difficulties may stay. So if the child is young and the difficulty is mild, remediation started and done regularly, school aware, providing accommodations, these children are definitely likely to do well. Now, all the boards, be it state boards or government boards, if the child is certified to have dyslexia, the child gets a lot of concessions which the child can benefit as his or her right.
Okay. And it is said those who are having this kind of disabilities like dyslexia, their brain wiring, their way of thinking is very different. Maybe they are more successful in certain aspect of life, like Stephen Spielberg. You can see. So उनके अंदर कुछ और खूबी भगवान दे देता है, बिकॉज उनका जो सोचने का तरीका है वो और दूसरी डायरेक्शन में बहुत परफेक्ट हो जाता है और वो उसमें अपना स्पेस क्रिएट कर पाते हैं.
Right. Every child has strengths and weaknesses. If we can identify the child's strengths and use them to boost the child's confidence, the child is likely to do well.
Does dyslexia affect the self-esteem of a child, and to what extent it affects?
Yes, it does. Sir, unfortunately, our learning system, apna jo education system is, there is a lot of stress on the child doing well, having good grades. If you have good grades, you're going to get a good college, you're going to have a good career, you'll get a good job, you'll have a better financial stability, your chances of a good relationship, your employment, everything depends on academics, which is why everybody is stressed about academics. The parents are stressed, that stress passes on to the child. So if the child is not doing well in class and the child has a reading difficulty, automatically it affects the child's confidence. This child is an intelligent child. His only difficulty is that he can't read. So the child feels everyone else around me is as intelligent as me, but they seem to read and I can't. Sometimes children are extrovert. They will act out, they will throw tantrums, they will run about the class, and the behavior may manifest. More so if the child is an introvert child, like a girl, this child will not share what's troubling, and that's when anxiety, school phobia might come in. So if we can identify the child's difficulty early and work, the child's self-esteem is better, this child is likely to be more successful.
Okay. Ma'am, what is the impact of dyslexia at various stages of life?
Right. Now, as we said, dyslexia, if the child is little, say less than 4, these are children who could have difficulties in initiation of speech. They could have attention issues, and that's how they would manifest. Between 4 to 6 years, they might manifest with attention issues, expressive language difficulties, difficulties with academics around that age.
Excuse me, ma'am, please you give some common example, so that audience can understand, because they will not understand that with attention and expressive language. You please give little common example.
Okay, so if the child is small, less than 4 years, this child will come to us he's not using sentences to narrate what he has seen or done in the day. That is language delay. The child could have difficulty in sitting down for a class in LKG, sitting down for circle time, difficulty in writing. Around LKG to upper KG, words are written on the board, copying the words down. If the teacher makes the child stand up and read the word, the child might have difficulty. If in an older class, if the teacher is reading out a story, the child is listening to the story, he can answer the question orally. But when it comes to he reading and he has to write, there the child might have difficulty. Written expression, what the child wants to say may not be conveyed in what he writes. When the child writes, samjho he is writing a paragraph on animal, the spelling of animal at different places will be different. The way, the punctuations that the child does, capital kahan pe karna hai, full stop kahan pe karna hai, comma kahan nikalna hai, those rules might be difficult for the child. If the child is given a comprehension passage or uspe questions niche diye hai, for the child to figure out what's happening when there is no picture there, sometimes that becomes a difficulty. Compared to the child's intelligence, ye wala jo performance hai, yahan pe the child struggles. In older classes, incomplete work, difficulty in completing the question paper, short question hai, fill in the blank hai, match the following hai, they can do that. But when it comes to read the question and write the answer, sometimes the child will just copy the question down because he's just not understood, he's not been able to comprehend the question. So that is how they could manifest.
So can dyslexia child live normal life as an adult later in the life?
Definitely. These are children with normal intelligence. So with a few concessions, these children and a proper remediation, these children are able to complete their academics. We as sensitive doctors or parents are able to identify the child's strengths and help this child have a vocation in his area of strength. Nowadays, with the advances of technology, children can use a computer, they can type on the computer where there is autocorrect for spelling. So there are lots of facilities available for children than they were before. And these are children who can definitely succeed in life.
Okay. And ma'am, is there any role of emotional support in dealing with the children with dyslexia?
Definitely. One, as parents, we need to stand up for our child. We need to explain to the teacher that he has, or my child is capable. These are few things that our doctor has asked us to do. This is the therapy that we are doing. These are the accommodations or concessions that my child needs to get as his right in school. If the child knows that the parent is with him, the child's confidence boosts up. Even in school, a sensitive school where the teachers are cooperative, where the teachers are reinforcing the efforts done by the child, where the child is given concessions like he can tell the answer orally, his spellings are overlooked, he is given little extra time. Sometimes children have difficulty with writing. Dysgraphia hai. If the child gets a writer to whom he can dictate the answer, automatically this child's confidence is better. So a sensitive family, a sensitive school with teachers who are supportive, and a society where this child is accepted for his strengths goes a long way in support. Pediatricians play a big role in counseling for the parents, because if the pediatrician can explain to the parents ki what the child does is because he's been wired differently, the parent is convinced that if my doctor believes that my child is intelligent, I should believe in him. So pediatricians are big advocates for our children.
Thank you, ma'am. What is the key message you would like to give to the parents?
My key message would be every child has strengths and weaknesses. If your child is not doing well and you're feeling troubled, open up, talk to your doctor about it, because sometimes there are very little things that can be done which go a long way in helping our child to do well. Get a detailed evaluation when necessary. Stand up for your child. Explain to the school where your child stands, and try to find out your child's strengths that they help to boost your child's confidence.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for sparing so much time for us. Thank you. Dr. Deepman, there is some question to be asked from ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Anu sir, and thank you, Archana ma'am, for sharing your input. There are a few questions, and I believe there are a few questions coming up. Ma'am, there is a question. Sir, my son study a lot, but marks get less. What should we do?
Right. That's the common complaint for parents that,
Yes.
my child is putting in a lot of effort, but the output is not there in marks. Unfortunately, our learning system is such that the child's performance is judged by marks. But as long as the learning is happening, our child is happy going to school, there are little things that need to be looked into. One, in terms of the child's cognitive ability. Two, is there anxiety which is affecting the child's performance? Is there too much pressure that is happening? What is the way the school curriculum runs? Is there too much pressure about it? Are there tests too often? Was he not well? So for every child, the cause may be different. We just need to look at it individually.
Absolutely. Ma'am, Sarika Gupta is asking, my daughter is 5-year-old and she's not interested in studies. In fact, when I say, please speak, she's completely speechless. Otherwise, she talks a lot.
Right. Now that she's 5, I'm sure last 1.5 years she has had online school. Now, online school is visually very distracting. Rather, if the child would have been physically in the class, the interest for school maybe would have developed better. At 5, we don't need to worry too much. We don't need to be behind our children कि जो written work है वो पूरा हमको complete करना ही है. It's not like that. Sometimes we as parents, are behind completing our schedule. जितना दिया है वो हमको फटाक से we want to finish it, fit it into our routine. We need to go the child's way. If there is, we need to set a reinforcer for the child. Do this and then we can go down to play. So set something that the child likes and that might motivate the child to do better. So we don't worry too much at 5 if she is not interested, but we maybe change the way we teach her.
Thanks, Dr. Archana. Then there is a clarification required by Jay Gupta. He's asking why a cutoff age of 6 years and 6 months duration to diagnose dyslexia.
Okay, now see, dyslexia is a difficulty which is academic. So it happens, you generally pick it up when the expectation, the academic expectation of the child and the child's performance don't match up. Now, our children go to school early. So our children are learning to read far earlier. Sometimes when children have word reversals, like was becomes saw or B becomes D, that could be an early reading immaturity. So we provide enough environmental stimulation, provide phonetic strategies for the child. Sometimes it could be attention based. So you work out certain strategies for the child, work with the child for 6 months. If after conventional instructions for 6 months, using our strategies, having a structured routine in place, still our difficulty persists, then we would look at it as a diagnosis. Our aim is not the label. Our aim is to be able to work with the child early.
मैम थोड़ा फोनेटिक स्ट्रेटजी के बारे में बताइए, कोई एग्जांपल देके. फोनेटिक स्ट्रेटजी.
जैसे in phonetics, as I said, we teach the child to break the word, the sound, and read it. Like when the child is 4-year-old, we teach the child A ka sound hai A, D ka sound hai D, T ka sound hai T. That's what we teach at 4 years. At 5 years, we teach the child to see a 3-letter word, B, at, bat, and blend it to make a word. Then comes the 4-letter words. Then we teach the child some words which don't have a technique of reading. These are called sight words, like the or and. These are or that. These are words that you can't decode phonetically. So these are sight words which the child learns. At 6, we teach the child कि जो word आया है उसको blend करके हमको sentence बनाना है. So that's the normal progression of how the child learns to read. At 6 years, the child should be able to read a complete sentence and understand it. आगे के classes में 2nd or 3rd, the child is given a small paragraph and the child learns to read and answer questions about it. At a later age, the child learns to make a gist of the topic or do paragraph writing or essay writing. So that is how reading is a natural process that progresses.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks, ma'am. Ma'am, Dyslexia or dysgraphia and dyscalculia. As a parent, maybe we may not be able to understand the difference, but the basic difference, if you can help the parents to understand, so that maybe at the right milestone, they should be understanding whether my child is attending the milestone or missing out any.
Right. Now, just now what I mentioned before are the milestones for reading. So, जैसा मैंने अभी बोला कि at 5 the child should be able to read a 3-letter word. At 5.5, 4-letter word. At 6 years, the child should be able to read an entire sentence. These are our reading milestones. Generally, by 4 years, these letter reversals tend to go away. Word reversals should go away by 6 years. So if these are still there, they are red flags for a dyslexia. Dysgraphia is if you ask the child to tell an answer, he will tell it well. But when he has to write it, the way he forms the sentences, the grammar, the execution on paper, the writing on the line, that execution may not be as great as when the child talks it out. That is dysgraphia. Dyscalculia is where the child's maths ability is less for the child's intellectual level. So at 4 years, the child learns numbers. He sees 4, he can say 4. By 5, the child can tell before number, after number, between number. By 6 years comes the mathematical operations, addition, subtraction. By 8 years comes multiplication, division. For a lot of children with dyslexia also, word problems is hard, where the child has to read, there are 10 apples, I give you 4, how many left? That needs language as well. So dyscalculia is where the child's maths difficulty or mathematical problem solving is not at par with the child's class level.
Now, today's session, maybe few have joined a little late, but I would request, please share it with your friends so that they will understand the basic difference which sometimes we miss out in our course of life. And we have many more which we have discussed during the past few months. So please share it with your best wishes and compliments or any feedback. If you have to I'm the Best Mom, please log into imthebestmom.com where you can download the ebook as well, which is complimentary for all of you. Experts, they have already come many occasions. Please share your views as well. We would love to capture in subsequent episode of Cover Page Cover Story. For today's evening, thank you so much once again, Dr. Kadam, and Anu sir, thank you so much for
Thank you, Deepandi. Thank
on
you.
behalf of the parents.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, audience, for having us, and wishing you all a happy good.
Thank you.
Thanks.